Today's lesson is section 2.2 on reduction of angles. Please make sure you write that heading down in your notes. If at any time through this video you need a little extra time, hit the pause key. That'll give you a little extra time when you need to write stuff down. Angles in standard position whose terminal sides coincide are called coterminal angles. So here we have the measure of angle theta, which is 30 degrees, and the measure of angle beta, which is 390 degrees. They start and stop at the same location. Hit the pause key now and give yourself a little time to write this material down. Make sure you hit that pause key. Okay, so now that you've written this down, we're going to talk about how you could find 390. How am I going to find if I ask you to find the sine of 390 or the cosine of 390? How would you do that? Because on the unit circle, it only goes up to 360. So how the heck can you figure out the sine of 390? Well, luckily for you, I'm your teacher, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So the question is, could you find the sine of 390? So write that down. And here's a couple things to keep in mind. We talked before about one rotation being 360 degrees or 2 pi. And in order for you to find something on the unit circle, the measure of it has to be greater than or equal to 0 and less than 360 degrees. Or if we're in radians, greater than or equal to 0 and less than 2 pi radians. Again, at any time, if you need to hit the pause key to write stuff down, please remember to do that. Now, I'm going to do that first example I was talking about if I asked you to find the sine of 390. Now, like we talked before, coterminal angles start and stop at the end the same place. But the bigger one could loop around a few extra times. So if one rotation is 360 and I have the sine of 390, all I have to do is subtract off 360. This value here must be in multiples of 360, so like 360 or 720. I can't just subtract off any random kind of number. Once I do that, I get the sine of 30. Well, the sine of 30 is easy enough to find on the unit circle. So you'll get out your circle, find 30 degrees. Sine is the y value. So your answer is just 1/2. Again, at any time, hit the pause key if you need to. Now we'll look at a couple other problems. Write these down, and again, hit the pause key if you need to. So 840 is obviously way too big. If I asked you to find the cosine of 840, and you look on the unit circle, you say, yeah, it only goes up to 360. So I need to reduce this number down in multiples of 360 until I can find it on the unit circle. So let's look at the calculators. So if I'm at 840 and I take off 360, it's a little too dark. There we go. Is that going to be good? No, it's 400. 480. It's still too big. I need to take off another 360. Can I find 120 on the unit circle? Yes, I can. So what I had to do here was take off 360 2 times, which makes it 720. So I had to take off 2 rotations in order to find this on the unit circle. So now I can find the cosine of 120 by looking to where 120 is, and cosine is negative 1/2. The next one is the sine of negative 810. Well, that's way too small. 0 is as small as I go. I don't have any negatives on here. So instead of subtracting in multiples of 360, what do you think we have to do? That's right, add in multiples of 360. So we're going to start off with a negative 810. Helps if you can see it. Still too dark. Now it's too late. So if I add 360, it's still a negative number. Add another 360, still a negative number. add another 360. Yay, we finally have one there. So I had to reduce this down 3 times. So I had to do 360. Oops, that's 2. I had to add 1080 to this. So if I do the sign of negative 810 and I add 1080, I'll get sine of 270. That you can look up on the unit circle, so please go ahead and do so. Hit the pause key and look up the sine of 270 degrees and write it down. All right, if you did that, what is the sine of 270? Well, 270 is down here. Sine is the y value, so you should have gotten a negative 1. If you didn't, hit the pause key and call me over, and I'd be glad to help you. All right, let's continue on with this good time here. Let's do letter C. Letter C is the cosine of 7 pi. So write that down. Now 7 pi is way too big. It only goes up to 2 pi here. So this is way too big. I'd have to take it off in multiples of 2 pi. But really, working in radians is a little bit more difficult than just working in degrees. So let's change it to degrees because I think you'll have an easier time with that. Now, do you remember how to change from radians to degrees? Let's see. You need to do 7 pi times 180 over pi. So these pi's will cancel, and then you just multiply 7 times 180, and you get 1260. So that's going to be a little bit easier to work with. So now you can just subtract off in multiples of 360 until you find a value that you can pick up off the unit circle. What I'd like you to do now is hit the pause key and finish letter C. Okay, make sure you hit the pause key, because I'm walking around. Make sure you hit it. All right, so hopefully you hit the pause key so we can take a look at this. We started with 1260, and we just need to keep subtracting off in multiples of 360 until we can find it on the unit circle. And there we are, 180. So we're going to subtract off a 1080 here. And we'll be looking for the cosine of 180 degrees. If you look on your unit circle, 180 is right here. Cosine is negative 1. And there you go. Let's look at letter D. Letter D is the sine of negative 3 pi over 2. Now again, it's in radians, so let's change it to degrees. Then you're going to go ahead and keep adding in multiples of 360, because it's negative, until you can find it on the unit circle. Hit the pause key now and finish problem letter D. Again, make sure you hit the pause key and do the problem on your own. When you're done, hit play and then check your answers. Now, hopefully you hit the pause key, because what we're going to do now is convert this to degrees by multiplying by 180 over pi. You know the pi's cancel. Then you can just multiply and then divide, and you should get negative 270 degrees. Now, you only have to add 360 to this one time to get a positive number to get your sine of 90. And if you look on your unit circle, the sine of 90 is going to give you 1. If you have any questions up to this point, please make sure you hit pause and call me over, and I'd be glad to help you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about tangent. Tangent and cotangent are special. So what I want you to do is write this down, hit the pause key, write it all down, and then hit play and pick up with the lesson. Make sure you hit that pause key. So like I was saying, tangent and cotangent are kind of special. This might not make the most sense to you as to why they're special, but as we go through the marking period, it will become more obvious to you. You notice here, it says the measure has to be between 0 and 180 or 0 and pi, as opposed to the other ones which were 0 and 360 or 0 and 2 pi. Here's the deal. We're only going to be looking at the top half for tangent, because the way it works when you're dealing with tangent is you get the same answers in the first and the fourth and the second and the third quadrants. So we don't want any repeat answers, so we're only going to look at the top. Okay? Like I said, it'll make more sense throughout the marking period when we work with it a little more. What I want to show you is the wrong way to do this and the right way to do this. So here's wrong, and here's correct. Now, if you did it the way we did it on the other side and just did it by 360, you would get tangent of 225. And that number's too big. It has to be less than 180. But let's say you didn't pay attention to that, and then you look on the unit circle, 225. Tangent, remember, is y over x. And what's anything divided by itself? 1. So you get 1. Now, if we do it the correct way and we subtract off in multiples of 180 instead of 360, so you get your calculator, we do 585 minus 180. Nope, minus 180. Nope. Now, normally we'd say that's good, but remember, this is tangent. Minus 180. There we go. It has to be the 45. So this one we had to do a bunch of 180s. There are 3 of them to get 45. Now you look on your unit circle, you find the 45, tangent is y over x, and you get the 1. So do you get the same answer? Yes, because like I said before, your answers are the same in quadrant 1 and 3. The problem is we don't want this 225, we want this 45. And again, this will be more crucial to you as we go through the marking period. Now let's do a couple using tangent and cotangent. So let's see, we left off of D, so let's pick up with letter E. So letter E is the tangent of negative 3 pi. The tangent of negative 3 pi. So what we want to do first is go ahead and put this into degrees because it'll be easy for us. So we'll do negative 3 pi times 180 over pi. So write that down. Pi's will cancel. And then if you just do negative 3 times 180, you'll get negative 540. Now, since this is negative, we need to add in multiples of 180. We're going to add in multiples of 180. So if you put in negative 540 and you add 180, too big, add 180, nope, still negative, add 180. 0 is fine. You can have 0 because if you look back at the top here, it says the measure has to be greater than or equal to 0. So having 0 is fine. Pi would be too big, 0 is fine. So we're going to be looking for the tangent of 0. Now look on your unit circle. 0 is over here. Tangent is y over x. 0 over 1 is 0. Now you're going to do the last 2 problems. Cotangent and tangent are done the same way, so keep that in mind. So you're going to go ahead and do letter F. Cotangent is 7 pi over 2. And letter G. Sine is 7 pi over 2. So write those down and hit the pause key. Do both problems, then come back to this and see if your answers were correct. It's important to hit the pause key because you need to do this on your own. Make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, hopefully you hit the pause key. Don't disappoint me now. So let's go ahead and change this to degrees. So you multiply 7 times 180, divide it by 2, and there's your 630. So we have cotangent is 630. Now you need to subtract off in multiples of 180. So minus 180. Nope, minus 180. That's still too big for a tangent or cotangent. We want it to come all the way down to 90. So we're going to subtract off 540. We'll have cotangent of 90. Now let's look at our unit circle and find 90. Cotangent is x over y. So 0 over 1 is just 0. Then the last one, the nice thing is we've already changed it to degrees here. So I'm going to be looking for the sine of 540. Now this is sine, so it goes, remember, from 0 to 360. So we're going to subtract off in multiples of 360 for this one. So only one time here. So you're going to be looking for the sine of 270. You don't want the sine of 90 because it has to be multiples of 360 for sine. So find 270. Here it is. We want sine, so our answer is -1. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, you need to stop me as I'm walking around the room and see if I can help you in any way. What I'll do now is hit the stool, and then I'll give you the assignment. The assignment, if I could find it. Here we go. Your assignment is on page 105. Page 105. You're going to do 9 to 17 odd, 16, and also I'm going to throw a number 4 in there. So write that down and then open up your books to page 105. I do want to explain problem number 4. Okay, I do want to explain problem number 4 on page 105. If you need to hit the pause key, then do so. What they're asking for here on number 4 on page 105 is the 6 trig functions, which is what we've done before, where you find the sine, the cosine, the tangent, the cosecant, the secant, and the cotangent, using these values. Okay, so for number 4, here's your x, here's your y. So sine, remember, is y, so this would be your y value. Cosine is x, and so forth. So you're going to list the 6 trig functions for number 4. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.